Welp, I got a Surron. Let's review it. I bought one. This is a 2024 Surron Light BX. This is my first ever e-bike, actually. I've never really owned one up until 3 weeks ago. In those 3 weeks, I've been riding nearly every single day for around 3 to 4 hours. And I've already put 250 miles on it to around 200 miles. So I'm pretty impressed with myself on that end. But this video, I just kind of want to go over the bike, kind of like do a piece by piece of what I like, what I don't like. And I don't know, just overall how the bike rides. Do I think it's worth buying in 2025? Should you buy something else or should you not buy these at all? But I kind of want to start off small, so let's kind of just go in order. So first, let's start off the battery and just kind of the brains and power of this Surron, this bike. So right here we have a 60 amp hour battery that is pushing around 6 kilowatts of power, which is definitely a lot and should be enough for a bike this size and weight, because this bike only weighs 123 pounds. So that's a very, very light. It's very easy to pop wheelies and loop the bike if you're not careful. But overall, the battery, I do like. I've gone around 3 to 5 hours of runtime, mainly on eco mode and occasionally switching to sport mode, and still having around 25% left before I'm done for the night, which it's a pretty good amount of riding time. But if you are someone who harshly rides in sport mode, your time is cut down to around at least only 2 hours to an hour of riding, which really does suck. But your charge time is typically around 2.5 to 3.5 hours fully charged. But I don't ever let my batteries get below 25% or 15%. So for me, it's only around 3 hours even. So really, here's your stock motor and controller. I don't really know too much about these two in general, but I do know that this is an IPM motor and that you can swap them out with anything you want. That's the benefit of a Surron. Well, other e-bikes too, but Surron has the most aftermarket support. It's been around the longest. It was the first e-bike, full-size, I guess, e-moto on the market. If you want to upgrade the battery and controller, you can. There's plug-and-play options for that. Or if you just want to upgrade the battery and keep the controller and motor stock, you can do that, and you get a little bit more power and way more range. I do know that there's brands like Chai batteries and BAC controllers. I know there's way more, I just don't know all of them. I just know those two off the top of my head, but you have options for this bike, which is super nice. But like I said, the power overall was very good. I have topped this bike out at 50 miles an hour, which is around the same speed as my 125 when I used to own that. So it's perfect. You have really good low end and high end torque all throughout. You don't really lose that power until the very, very high end mark. But overall, like I said, the power is good. It's pretty much all you need. It's just that all you need is 6 kilowatts and 50 miles an hour, because anything faster than that, you're kind of afraid to drive it because you might kill yourself on it or loop it or flip it. Anything can happen. But, and that's basically all that is right there. So let's move on to something else. Let's go over the brakes. To be honest, I think these are a big disappointment, and I don't really think they're even that safe. These are 203 millimeter rotors, and they are very, very, very thin. And to be honest, for something that goes 50 miles an hour, you kind of want to have good brakes. So this is definitely a downfall of this bike, of the brakes. The front and the rear, you do suffer a pretty bad brake fade and them squealing, and there's not much you can really do. And you're going to be buying pads and rotors kind of probably every couple of months, especially if you are a hard rider. As for the tires, they're pretty thin. I think they're 19 by 2.75s, and there's not much meat on these. I do know that they are strictly off-road tires, but you can kind of see they're already wearing down pretty bad. And I am going to make a video of me installing new dual sport tires, but I'm not a fan of these. I mean, they do the purpose for off-road, but strictly on and off-road does just not cut it. So these will be changed very, very fast. And if you are someone who rides on and off-road, you should probably change these to the dual sports because you don't want to be buying tires every couple months. So yeah, that needs to be changed immediately and something I do recommend. The handlebars are, well, pretty nice. I do like how they feel. I don't really care that they're low taper ones. I actually prefer these over the high riser bars, and for the most part, they feel very, very, very good. The grips are also a very good point. I do like these as well. They're very squishy and soft, and you have a lot to grip on too. Your brakes front and rear, like I said, they are very mushy. They're not the worst, but not the best. And I didn't even say this before, but you're actually using mineral oil instead of DOT fluid, which I'm not a big fan of because that means that you have a lower boiling point if you have to come to a stop very fast, which can warp the rotors and pads. So just keep that in mind. So like I said before, want to change those brakes out pretty fast. But over here on this side, you have your control for eco mode, sport mode, and then on the display, if you hit it once, it shows you your max speed, your trip, and your miles all your miles you've done. And you even have a horn. It's pretty loud, so just keep that in mind too. The camera does not do it justice. But the bars stock are very, very good. I do like them and how they are, so I'm gonna keep these stock. So let's go over the suspension next. The front forks are very, very good and they're very smooth and silky. They're not too spongy or too firm. And that's also due to the fact that you can adjust the rebound and preload on these, which is a super nice touch. You can also do this with the rear shock as well, and there's aftermarket support for the forks and shocks if you're someone who likes to do that. I personally have kept the setting stock and don't see myself doing anything to the suspension. I mainly want to keep it stock as it is because it's just perfect for me. And if you're someone who likes that stuff, go on ahead. You build your bike the way you want to. Let's talk about my least favorite thing about the bike, and it's kind of just where you sit at. The seat on this is extremely uncomfortable. I find myself after 30 minutes of an hour of riding, my butt is already very, very much hurting and I'm constantly readjusting myself left to right. I think it uses foam, like a very, very cheapish foam, because these seats are pretty prone to ripping too. And this is mainly for the 2024 and lower models. The 2025 uses a gel padded seat and you don't even have to worry about this. So this is something I would love to replace and probably will end up doing in the future. And I recommend you do it too if you like to ride for long periods of time. So now that wraps up, well, my overview of the bike. Now, do I think it's worth it in 2025, considering the price, these new tariffs, and all these new competitors? And honestly, I don't think it is. I only bought this bike because I got it for a very, very good price. I paid $41.99 out the door, and that's because I drove 3 hours out of state to get this bike because no one was buying this at the dealership. And I didn't even mention this, but you can only buy these Surrons at licensed powersport dealerships. You can't buy them online anymore. And I think that's crazy because you can buy all these other good brands of e-bikes online and in Lunicycle and other different sites that are real, which I think is crazy because after they get to the dealership, they mark up the fees drastically between their dealer fees, sales tax, and other stuff like that. Because right now in 2025, I think these out-the-door powersport dealerships, at least in my state, are going for $5,800 to around $7 grand, which for that price, that's like Surron Ultra B price for a bigger bike, more power, more features, and I do not think it is worth it. Like I said, I would have never bought this bike if it wasn't for the deal I got it for. And if it wasn't for that, I probably would have bought Talaria, E-Ride Pro, RAR Mantis, or even the RTRs, because I just don't think it's worth it. I think you are better off getting those bikes instead of this. But if you are someone who's insistent on getting a Surron, look on Facebook. There's people selling them 24/7 all the time for decently good prices. I've looked around on Facebook and I've found them for around $3,500, $4 grand. For very good condition, the bike has never been dropped, low miles, which that's a good deal. That's a good deal. And you can even, I think you can even get like the Ultra Bs for like $6 grand, which is what dealerships offer for these Surron X's, which I don't think is worth it. So just be careful with your money and what you want to spend it on. But I think with that wraps up this video, and I'm gonna go ride my bike before it gets too dark. So until then, I'll see you guys next time.